Teaching and learning with Mr. Miller. Hello ladies and gents, and welcome to another episode of Teaching and Learning with Mr. Miller. We're on part 3 now of the Intro to Photoshop tutorials. And today we're looking at photographs. We're looking at bringing photos in, editing those photos slightly, and also cutting them out. So we can put them onto our poster. Now here you can see I've got my poster from last time. Some things still aren't actually as I wanted them to be. That was supposed to be Rockwell. So if anything, if you've got how to change that, I can show you how to change the font. There you go. Actually, another thing that I forgot to mention in the last episode about text is if you highlight your text and you press the Alt or the Option key, depending on whether you're using PC or Mac, and then press left and right, you can track it. I mean, that looks not very good, but let's just say I wanted to do that. And if you put it in between individual letters, do that. Let's just get out of it and do that again. So if I put it in between individual letters and then press Alt and left or right, I can track the individual letters. That's called kerning. So tracking is when you change all of the letters. Kerning is when you change them between the individual ones. Again, this isn't looking very good, but you guys are going to do different. Maybe I can link up those little things. That doesn't look great, but whatever. Looks a bit arty there, doesn't it? That's what you usually get with serif fonts, with those little flicks on. You can do stuff like that. But anyway, we're not really looking at text today. We did that last time. Let's save that though. And what we're doing today is photographs. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take a photograph. You could just use one for free off the internet, but again, that's called theft. If it's copyright free and you're like, no, I'm allowed to do it, okay, go for it. But if you're handing it in as your coursework for anything, which, let's face facts, you probably are, then it's going to be plagiarism. That's kind of like theft, isn't it? So take yourself a photo. I took a photo earlier today. There's my photo. By all means, not the best photo I've ever taken. The lighting isn't great up top because I've got a dark forehead. Plus also the whole thing is just a little bit underexposed. But I did that purposely so I could show you how to change it slightly. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to get this photo and we're going to want to bring it into here. Now you could do the edit in 2 ways. You could either edit this photo and then bring it in, or secondly you could bring it in and then edit it. I'm going to bring it in and then edit it because I don't like the idea of editing this photo, thinking it looks really good and then wanting to change it again when it's in here. I just want to change it once. Okay, remember the idea of this is supposed to be working quickly. So what I'm going to do, first thing is I'm going to just duplicate my layer because I always do that. It's always nice to have a backup. It's good practice. I'm going to press Command J for that, or Control J if you're PC. Remember J for duplicate. You can't have D because that's deselect. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and you can see I've got my tools and I'm going to go to the 4th one down and I'm going to click and I'm going to hold and I'm going to go to the Quick Selection tool. Okay, I'm using the Quick Selection tool. Now, if you had a professional graphic designer, they would probably use one of these, like the lasso, or even one of these other lasso tools. Okay, but I'm not a professional. If I was a professional, I'd be off doing that. I'm a teacher, which means I know how to do things, just not as well as everyone else. Not to mention, this is about speed, okay, not just about quality. Now, what I've got here is I've got my Quick Selection tool, and you can see up here I've got some options. This is your default option, and then you've got plus, and you've got minus. And you might be able to see the plus and minus icons in that circle. Plus means I am selecting something. Minus means I am not selecting or unselecting it, I should say. You could just use, click on the plus, and if you hold down the Alt key, I think it is, it should turn to a minus. Or maybe it's on that one I've got to do. Oh, that's unusual. Oh well, we'll see how it goes. Right then, so I've got my plus key there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get my Quick Selection tool and I'm going to select the things I want to. Now, anything this circle touches, I'm selecting. So I'm going to select that. Okay, and look, it's already done a good job. The reason it's done such a good job is because I have taken a photograph of me on a white background. Now, you're going to want to do the same thing, by the way. Okay, get yourself in a good light. Now, I'm teaching here in Dubai, so many of my students are here also in Dubai. There's some good light if you just exit the house. Because it's very sunny. So find yourself a white wall and take a photo of it, preferably not with the sun in your eyes, maybe the sun coming in from one of the angles. My pose, by the way, what I tend to do is I turn my feet 45 degrees away from the camera, so my feet are facing this way, and then I kind of twist my body. And I've kind of got this, my arms crossed there, which you can't really see. And the reason I've done that is just to kind of give myself like a bit of a stronger pose, because it's supposed to be for a poster, and that's what we want to be connoting. Right then, so I'm going to select. Now what you just saw me do is you saw me deselect, by the way, and I've mentioned that a few times. If I press Command D, it deselects everything. Sometimes it's good just to say, right, screw it, start again. Okay, now I'm going to select my head. Let's say I wanted to get the shirt. If I sneak over a little bit, you can see it start covering that bit. Now if I hold down the Alt key now, you can see, because I've got some stuff selected, that plus is turning into a minus. Now that means I can deselect it. But the more you select and the more you deselect, the worse it's going to do. Okay, you kind of want to get it all in one here. So Command D, deselect. If you're not liking the size of your cursor there, you could press the square bracket tools, or you could use that up there, and it will change the size of it. Okay, so the square bracket tools go U, I, O, P, and then your squared bracket tools. Okay. Now, because the lighting's all right on this, and because there's kind of like a clear line, even though I'm wearing a white shirt and a white background, even though there's a clear line, it's going to be able to cut this out pretty well. Okay, you really do want to make it as easy on yourself by getting good photos. So I'm just going to click and let's see what I got. Okay, now straight off the bat, that looks all right. So I'm quite happy with that. What I am going to want to do though is I'm going to want to go up to this button here and go to Select and Mask. Now when I go to Select and Mask, it's going to show me what the final outcome is going to look like. Now usually transparency would be down like that, so you can't see it. I turn the transparency up. You can have, you know, red backgrounds and marching ants and all that sort of stuff. I just go for onion skin and I go for transparency up, just so I can see what it's going to look like. Now that doesn't look bad, but I don't know what's going on my arm there. It looks a bit weird. And it looks a bit sharp, doesn't it? Which doesn't look perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to Global Refinements, and I'm going to just default this. I always do a default of 5 for smooth, and feather I do 0.5. Okay, that's just my default. And then I kind of look at it and I'm like, okay, that looks a little bit better. Okay, still looks a bit sharp, but whatever. Now you might want to smooth it up a bit. You might want to feather up a bit. If you feather up too much, it looks a bit ridiculous. So let's go down to 0.5 again. But play around with it and see which works best. But just be aware that even if it does look quite sharp, we can fix it up afterwards. Now, hair is usually going to look a little bit weird, okay, because there's lots of fine strands coming off. I mean, I've got a pretty sharp hairline that, on top, whereas if you had a female, particularly, stereotypically, with longer hair, you're going to get loads of bits coming off. So what you can do is you can get this tool here, the Refine Edge tool, okay, the second one down. And then what you can do is you can just very softly just refine the edge by clicking and holding and just seeing what it looks like. Okay, it doesn't look like it's doing that much, but it's doing a little bit. Now you can see at the top there, it's kind of choosing some things to select and some not. Now this can be your savior, or it could completely screw it up. Okay, now I know for a start that's not going to look great, but I know I can fix it off afterwards. Maybe I want to get my tool there and I want to select a little bit more of my shirt. Yeah, that looks like it's going to work. If I hold down Option, I can deselect that bit of the arm. I'm going to press Command Z because I didn't mean to do that. Okay, and you know what? I'm not going to test fate. I'm just going to leave it like that. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press OK. Now what I've got is basically the same as what I had, but it's been refined slightly. You may not be able to see those refinements there, but you will do in a second. Sorry, as always, I'm just having a cup of coffee while I'm doing this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, okay? Now there are various ways of doing this. Lots of people like to create masks, lots of people like to invert it and then delete it. To be honest, you could just press, Command C and then Command V. That's usually what I do, okay? Then you can see what I've got is I've got an extra layer up there. Okay, that's my original. And that's the one I've just pasted. It just means that you've got an extra copy. Again, that's not going to be appropriate for all contexts, but you'll probably be fine for this. Let's go to my other one and let's just paste it in. Command V, okay? And there it is. Right. Now that doesn't look fantastic because I can see the lighting's well off. Also, it's underneath everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that to the top, okay? And then I'm going to position myself there, okay? Now that's a bit big, so what I'm going to do is go to Edit, Transform, Scale, or Command T, Control T if you're on a PC, and I'm just going to move that. And there we go. By the way, if you hold Shift, you can make it like that, but it makes it look all out of space. You don't really want to do that. So I'm just going to go like that. A bit of a tip there, by the way, have things overlaying. Sometimes it can look quite nice. So there we go. And then you can move things. I'm going to move that A+. In fact, that ellipsis could probably do with being quite a bit smaller. Command T. Let's make that smaller. Hold Shift while you're selecting both of them. You can move them both. And there we go. Let's call that photo. Just by double clicking on the actual word. Right, there we go. Right, so there's my photo. So it's not looking fantastic, okay, because it looks way too dark, especially with this kind of like this aqua background, this aqua gradient. Although actually it works quite well because it's lighter at the bottom and dark at the top, just like my face. So sometimes you get lucky with the lighting. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to edit this now, okay? So I'm going to press Command J for duplicate, and I'm going to hide this. Reason being, if I screw it all up, I know I've got my backup there, okay? Better safe than sorry, as my dad always used to say. Then what I can do is I can go up to Image, I can go up to Adjustments, and I can change some of the adjustments, okay? So that's Image, Adjustments, and any of these things here, depending on what layer you've got selected. So first thing I'm going to do is I want to make it brighter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise the exposure, which I know sounds a little bit weird. Now the reason for that is brightness makes everything brighter, whereas exposure actually finds the sources of light and turns them up. So this is going to make everything brighter, but it doesn't just turn the brightness up. Let me show you. If I go to brightness and contrast, and then just turn it up, there you go. You can see it's making everything brighter, like almost equally. That doesn't look too bad, but I kind of want to make that brighter as well. I could also raise contrast. Contrast is the difference between blacks and whites, so you can get something like that and it's going to look really contrasty, which doesn't look great. If I turn it down though, it's probably going to find the differences between those. In fact, actually that's worked quite well. Also, I don't know what I'm doing, click Auto. It'll do it for me. There you go. That's really not what I wanted, but yeah. I'm going to go to cancel though. Let's try it with exposure. Let's just see what this does. There you go. See, I've got loads of stuff there. I've even got some presets. Let's turn it up by a couple. Hey, okay, that looks nice. Okay, I like that. You can also do other things as well, like you can offset it, just play around with it and show you what to do. Kind of does a bit of contrast, it seems there, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. And also you've got gamma correction as well, which as you can see as it moves, it kind of plays around with contrast. If you don't know what those things are, play around them if you like them, or don't. Okay, to be honest, I actually think I'm going to take back what I said and I'm going to go for brightness and contrast because that kind of worked. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the brightness up to make the whole thing brighter. But I didn't like the fact that the shadows were darker, so I'm going to turn the contrast down a bit. Now the contrast means that the blacks and the whites, there's not so much difference between them. The lights and the darks, and I'll just pump it up. There we go. I'm thinking that looks a bit better. Turn the contrast down again. There we go. I think that looks a lot better than it did. So I'm going to click OK, and there we go. So it did look like that, now it looks like that, okay? So you can fix photos afterwards. There's loads of other stuff as well you can do. Look, auto tone, auto contrast, auto color. Just click them, see what they do. Okay, looks good, I'll keep it. Auto contrast. Didn't do anything, excellent. By the way, if you want to undo everything, remember your history is right there, the 3 boxes with the arrow. Auto color. Okay, right, yeah. Press Command Z, undo that. Look, that does look a bit warm. I look a bit orangey. Although it is to buy, so maybe that's not a bad thing. But auto color? Yeah, why not? Let's go for it, okay? That kind of works, looks a bit more normal. Now let's go for image adjustments. What else have I got here? I've got levels and curves. Levels means your blacks, your whites, and your greys. You can see that, you know, you've got your blacks, you've got your greys, you've got your whites. You can play around with these. There's loads of things there. Midtones brighter. Hey, okay, that kind of worked, didn't it? That did what I wanted to do. Lighter. Okay. Increase all lights and shadows. That did it there. Okay, so I could have just gone for that. Go for auto. And I'm going to go to OK, because I think auto did quite a good job. Let's just take that off. Okay, yep. Let's go to redo. If you use auto, usually it will do quite well. But if you want to get artistic, you might not always be able to. You can go for curves as well. Curves is very similar. It's going to be doing your contrast. You can create some really fantastic things in it, like that. Okay, we're trying to make this look professional, normal. Now some other things we've got vibrance and hue and saturation, which is going to be working a lot with the colour. I don't really want to do that. Maybe I'll go for saturation, and I'm going to go for oranges, which it doesn't seem to have. Maybe I'll change the reds a little bit, because if I change the red, you can see it's probably going to pump up the colour in my face. So maybe I'm going to try and lower that just a little bit to make my face look a little bit less red. Or maybe I'll just change it like that. You can play around with it, you can do some weird stuff. Remember, you can always go backwards if you need to. And there's loads of other things you can do there as well. If you want to make it black and white, there's the button desaturate. Sometimes that works well, not always. But you don't always need to do that much stuff. Right then, that's probably it, isn't it? That's me having a photo in there, and it looks a lot better than what it did, okay, because it did just look like that. Right, there we go, ladies and gents. Put yourself a photo into your poster, play around with it, see what you want to do, delete it if you've done a bad job, and redo it, and you can play around with it as much as you want to. See you next time. Bye-bye.